Okay, so it's almost time. So we will have another session. The title is a simulation model for 3D printed drug development. So please start your session.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Hassan Sami Adnan, and the title of my presentation is Simulation Model for 3D Printed Drug Development. And the presentation materials, as well as the presentation, both are in English, and I consent to being recorded during this presentation. We also comply with the PyCon JP Code of Conduct. And yes, so I'm part of this amazing research group, and we're trying to solve different types of health-related issues that need attention from the IT field. So if you probably attended our talk yesterday, you're already familiar with this slide. It's just to give you a feeling about the emerging trend in medicine. So if you see like digital health, deep learning, and artificial intelligence, these are all very trending topics. And in the last few years, they've been increasing a lot. And if you see 2019, already, like, we still have 3 months left, but it's already almost 4,000. So a lot of papers. These are a number of publications in medical journals. And so if you're a Python developer, it's perfect time to, be with Python and use this opportunity. About 3D printing, so it's been very successful in many fields of medicine, especially surgery and prosthetics, and also in dentistry. And a dream is kind of like having or being able to print your tablet at home. So if you're feeling unwell, maybe your lab on a chip is saying, okay, you have high temperature, so from your phone you can just print a paracetamol tablet. But that's probably a dream and more like a science fiction Star Trek kind of thing. So in 2019, I think, or we think it's more probable, and actually a lot of companies are trying 3D printed additive manufacturing. And the reason is, of course, like there are two facets to this. And patients over 60 in Europe mainly, they need 15 to 20 tablets a day on average. And my guess is in Japan, because the life expectancy is so good, maybe it's a bit less. But still, that's a lot of tablets that patients need to take every day. So there are two approaches, and we're just going to give you a very simple explanation and not going into the details. One idea is to combine multiple APIs, and this is not to be misunderstood with APIs in Python or in programming. This is actually active pharmaceutical ingredients. So this means the actual medicine. And here, if you see the cross section, so that's a capsule, and inside the capsule, so the blue one is one material, one medicine. The green, red, and yellow, those are also other medicines. So you have one tablet, but you have 4 APIs. So this is one idea. And the other idea is controlling the release profile. And this, like one good example for this is epilepsy drug, which patients take during like morning before going to work. And they want to have a constant effect of the medicine throughout the whole day. But the red line here shows the existing release profile. So in the morning, they're very well. They don't have any problems. But when they're coming back from work, so after 6 or 8 hours, there's a risk, like when they're driving, because the effect is going down. So the target release profile, or what pharmaceutical companies want to strive for, is the dotted line. So then even in the 12th hour, you'll have the same effect. And to try to implement this, of course, using Python, my colleague Saad Ifti, he will walk you through this. Thank you very much.
Right, thanks, Sami. So I'm an aerospace engineer, and in our group one day we were talking about this very problem. And due to my work, I have to do a lot with aerodynamics and fluid dynamics. So I thought I could use some of those skills to come up with an idea and maybe offer a solution for this. And we have done that as a group, at least to model it. So just as a first stab, if we look at it, so this solution is going to have a 3D printed capsule, the capsule that you've seen earlier, the ones that we generally take when we have a flu or so. But it's going to be created with a wall that is porous. So you're going to have a porous scaffold as a wall. So porous meaning that it has lots of tiny holes on the wall. And we're going to drive the content of that capsule by pressure, internal pressure. So the internal pressure is going to squeeze the content of the medication, and it's going to go into your system. So here you can see that structure, the scaffolding. In general, in application, you would see that the pore sizes would be very, very small. And this is what we're trying to do and show with our model here. So this is just a bit of fluid dynamics. You can see on the equation there, on the left-hand side, you have the pressure differential. If you see the schematic on the right-hand side, you have the capsule, and inside you'll have that medication. It's going to be a fluid at a higher pressure than the ambient pressure in your stomach, for example. So it's going to be just a little bit more than what your system pressure is. And then the pressure is going to drive that fluid out through those pores in the wall. So all the tiny holes in the walls are going to release that, that content of medication. And on the right-hand side of the equation, on top you have mu, which is the viscosity of the fluid. That's how sticky the fluid is. And m dot is the mass flow rate. So as you can see, the target profile, the dotted line in the graph below, it's constantly rising. So you want to have, for example, 1 milligram a second of that medication going into your system. You want a constant level of medication going into your system of your drug. So we want to keep m dot constant. And then you have rho in the denominator, which is the density of the fluid. And A is the surface of the whole capsule. And the most important parameter here is D. So D is it's proportional. It's a proportionality factor. So if D is high, that means if I have the same pressure differential, we're going to have more mass flow coming out of it. If D is low, that means it's the resistance is high, so it's not letting out a lot of fluid from the capsule. So from an application perspective, we want to let out ever so little amount of medication or drug into your system. So we're talking about grams, milligrams a second or so. So we want to really decrease the value of D here. So that's what our model actually does. It says for a certain mass flow rate what your D should be, and from D we can actually say what your topology of the wall should be. So what type of pore sizes you want. So you have lots of tiny holes. What size do you want for these holes? The smaller the holes, the less fluid would come through because you have more resistance. You have more impedance for that fluid to come out. So in order to solve this equation, we have just used a Gauss-Seidel iterative method. So essentially what it does is, so here we're solving for the pressure. So what it does is, for the solution vector, for example, P sub 1, P sub 2, P sub 3, when it's calculating P sub 4, is going to take the values from P1, 2, and 3. And it starts from an initial value. It could be started with just a vector of zeros. It's a very fast method. And it's very useful if you want to model the viscosity as well, because when you model temperature, the equation becomes a second order equation. So in that case, it's a very useful tool, and the bit of code is really small, so you can actually model the whole geometry and find out what your D value is, so that coefficient that we are after. So this is the solution of the pressure. So here on the x-axis, I have the wall thickness, so where x is 0, that's inside the capsule, and where x is 1, that's the outer surface of the capsule. And you can see how the pressure drops. So here the pressure starts from 1.2 bar, so approximately we're 20% higher than the atmospheric pressure. So this is important. We can't really have a lot of pressure inside because you wouldn't want to swallow a pressure vessel, right? It's essentially a small bomb that you're taking in, right? So you wouldn't want to do that. So there is a limitation to how much pressure you can put in, and this is why a model is useful in that sense, that you can actually see what pressure is required and whether you can actually achieve the target profile using a minimal pressure increase. So that's the distribution across the material. Of course, the thickness of the capsule could be below a millimeter as well. But this goes to show that even if you have a millimeter of wall thickness, your pressure can significantly drop over distance. So what does this all mean? We want to do a 3D printed capsule. And the limitation for 3D printing today primarily is the resolution. So how small of a feature can you print with the 3D printer? It's getting better every month. You're seeing improvements here and there. So they are actually doable in the microns levels as well. In that case, the material wouldn't really withstand the forces in general. They're very brittle. So people are still working on it. But if you want to have a solution like this, we can't just say, oh, I want to print a scaffold like this or a capsule like this. Rather, you would want to know what resolution do I want, what the pore sizes should be. And that's exactly what our simulation can show. So you can see in these pictures, this is from our colleagues who published this in Nature. So you can see that the pore sizes can be different, and they're trying to get smaller and smaller. But if we look at the simulation results that we are showing here, the permeability coefficient, from that coefficient you can then find the pore size required. So the pore size required to achieve a permeability coefficient on the left-hand side there is going to be in the microns level. So it's going to be something 10 to the power minus 6 meters. It's going to be very small. So if you want to achieve whole features, whole topologies that small, your 3D printing capability must be of that level as well. So you want to have that resolution for your 3D printing. And this is what we're trying to show with our model. And I think it's a pretty interesting application of fluid dynamics in healthcare. So that was it for my side, from my side. So we have this campaign with Pi Health where we work with healthcare solutions or medical solutions, but we also have another stream with education, so especially for STEM education. And let's take a step back and introspect for a while. We've been here for 2 days. We've seen many interesting slides and presentations, machine learning, healthcare. We also use Python in rocketry, space exploration as well. But I think this is a privilege. Like, how many people do actually use this in the whole world if you take the whole population into account? So we want to reach out to students, people outside, and show what you can do with Python. So if you're, for example, using MATLAB or any other software, you'd pay a lot and it's out of reach for most of the people. But Python is not like that. You can just download a package and you're good to go, and it's fully free. But the knowledge must go out, and you have to show the children that you can actually do that. There is something like this. So our approach is to do a first campaign, a camp for underprivileged children in Mymensingh in Bangladesh. So it's going to be first of its kind over there, and we're going to show children who have probably never seen a laptop before, never used like any internet options before, and we're just going to show that there is something like this and do 1 or 2 hours of coding with them. And so we are trying to do this. If you have any ideas, do feel free to contact us, and if you want to collaborate, we're very happy, and you'd be very welcome. From our whole group, thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you for the talk. We have a little time, so maybe we can have one question. So if you have a question, please raise your hand.
Any questions?
Okay, so in that case, okay, thanks so much. So give me a talk.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.